Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I'm going to talk to you today in this short lesson about this week's Torah portion, which is Parsha Terumah. And what I'm going to talk about is the fact that Tzedaka, the giving of charity, is a path to achieving holiness. We know that the Torah has given us many examples of how we are in this world and we have bechira, we have free choice. God has given us the ability to make the right choices. And one of the expressions of free choice is in this week's Parsha. And it says as follows, and it's talking about, before I tell you the sentence, it's talking about the bringing donations, various things to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle, uh, ultimately turned into the base of Mikdash, the holy temples in Jerusalem. But the sentence that is written in the Torah, it says, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, b'yichu li truma, speak to the children of Israel that they should take for me gifts. Me'ez kol ish asher yidveno libo, tikchu es trumasi. Take these gifts from everybody whose heart so moves them. Now, that's a strange statement. Take the gifts from anybody whose heart moves them. If you're giving charity to somebody, you fulfill the mitzvah whether your heart is moved or not. But here the Torah is telling us specifically for these gifts to the Mishkan, to build the tabernacle, you have to do something where your heart moves you. There is an interesting story that is brought by Rabbi Shia Twersky, or Dr. Twersky Olav Shalom, who recently left this world. He tells a story about the Rabbi of Tolan, the Tolaner Rebbe. And he said he was once going to visit a town, and he sent word ahead to his Hasidim that he was coming. Well, the Hasidim heard the message that the Rebbe is coming to town. They were all very excited. And one man, a poor man, runs home to his wife. He's so excited. He's just as high as he can be. He said, and the wife says, "What are you so excited about?" He says, "The Rebbe's coming to town." "Oh, wonderful." And she was sharing in his joy. And all of a sudden, he turned very despondent and sad. And she says, "What's the matter? A minute ago you were so happy, and now you're sad. What's going on?" He says, "I know that whenever the Rebbe comes to town, he's going to ask for tzedakah, a little charity, and I have no money. I don't even have a ruble to give to him. I don't have the smallest coin to give to him." The wife says, "Don't worry. I will break some loaves of bread, take it to the marketplace and sell it, and then you'll be able to give the Rebbe a ruble." And he was so happy. His mood changed again. Same time, a very wealthy man came home to his wife, very despondent. She said, "What's the matter?" "Ah, I just heard that the Rebbe's coming to town." "Well, what's wrong with that? Should be great." "No, because every time he comes to town, it means I got to give tzedakah. I've got to give a big amount of charity. It's going to cost me 50 rubles. It's going to go down the drain. You know, that's why I'm upset." So that's the precursor to the story. The Rebbe comes to town and he accepts, of course, willingly the gift of the poor man. He decides he accepts the gifts of the wealthy man also, because even though he didn't do it with a full heart, nonetheless, he did it. What does this story teach us? This is similar to the mitzvah of bikurim. What is bikurim? Bikurim is where you see the first fruits that grow in Eretz Yisrael, that grow in the land of Israel, the first of the seven, one of the seven species. When you see the first one, you go out to your field, you put a little ribbon around it, something so you can identify it, so that you can then bring it to Jerusalem on one of the three pilgrim festivals. So it's interesting. The poor man is worried. He says to his wife, I've got to bring the Bikurim. I want to bring it to Jerusalem, but I have nothing really to bring it in. Wife says, don't worry. I will weave for you a beautiful basket. And she goes and weaves this beautiful basket for him to put the fruit in. The rich man, on the other hand, says, oh, he's reminded that he's got to give Bikurim. Why do I have to do this every year? All right. So I have to put it in something. Well, wait a minute. I know last year somebody brought theirs in a silver basket. Well, I want to show that I'm better than that. So I'm going to bring it in a gold basket. So both came to Jerusalem to bring the Bikurim, bring the first fruits. And what happens? The basket of the wealthy man is returned to him. The fruit is taken out, the basket is returned. Poor man, not only is the fruit kept, but the basket is kept. What's the reason? The reason is that the recognition that the poor man gives with all his heart, with freedom of choice to give as much as he can, and the wife works so hard to weave this basket, that stayed in the temple, that stayed in the tabernacle, that was kept as an item of holiness. He reached holiness by his desire. Now, the Torah portion goes on a few sentences later and says, make for me a sanctuary that I will dwell amongst them. Not that I will dwell in it, but I will dwell amongst them. So a story is told of Reb Simcha Bunim, who goes to the Kotzker Rebbe, to visit the Kotzker Rebbe. And the Kotzker Rebbe says, Reb Simcha Bunim is a little boy at the time. He says, where is God? And Reb Simcha Bunim says, God is everywhere. Kotzker says, no, tell me, where is God? And Reb Simcha Bunim says, well, God is all over the world. His glory fills the world. Kotzker Rebbe says another time, says, tell me, where is God? So Reb Simcha Bunim says, obviously you don't like my answers, so tell me what the answer is. He says, God is wherever you let him in. God is wherever you let him in. The basket of the poor person that is kept in the Beis Hamikdash for the holiness of the Beis Hamikdash, that's, he let God into his life, and he did this with a full heart. Kol ish asher yidbenu libo. The Nativot Shalom brings a little statement by the Baal Shem Tov. He says, when we say Asher Yadvena Libo, which is with the full heart, Hadover Shetavoso Shel Adam Kashura Elav B'Yoter talks about the desires of a person are tied to what a person desires most. That's harder to part with. Uh, if you're making money, the poor man uh, can barely sustain himself and think of having to give money to charity. That's harder. The wealthy man begrudges it. And then Baal Shem Tov goes on, he says, he says, why did we human beings come to this world? It's not just a freak of nature. We came to be able to accomplish something, to be able to be mitakein our neshamas, to be able to repair our souls. And it says, you know that uh, what is most difficult to you in this life is something that is really you need to do, you need to conquer. And he points out that the Beis Hamikdash was a place of light. The temple was a place of light. Beis Hamikdash has been destroyed, but we can bring this light into our lives. You bring the life into your life, and that's what the pasuk means. We just read a minute ago. Basli mikdash v'shechanti b'socham. I will dwell in you. I will dwell in you. How? When you make yourself holy, and when you make yourself holy by taking that which is dear to you, giving it up to God, that will give you the holiness, will give you the path to holiness and the path to see the life. I thank you all for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, and I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.